What is maturity? Well, good morning. Welcome.
Thank you.
What is maturity? Any of you parents who are taking this class for the second time, who've also read the book, remember what the Education for Life definition of maturity is? Martha, will you roll that up and tuck it away for me? Thank you. Anybody want to take a stab at it?
Oh, I know it.
Yeah, well, all the teachers know it, yeah.
Always working on it. It's something about accepting the realities of other people.
Good. Not a parent, not a teacher, but a future promoter of Education for Life, current promoter. She's read the book. Well,
Education for Life, I read it. Yeah.
I read the book 2 or 3 times before I learned this, but so you're a fast learner. The ability to relate appropriately to the realities of others. Did I say that correctly? And that's the goal of Education for Life. And if you think about it, how can you relate to the realities of others if you don't have basic academic skills? You can't read and write and understand a little bit about math, so you understand the people who are engineers and mathematicians. How can you relate to the realities of others if you don't understand all of your 4 tools of maturity? How can you understand what it's like to be an athlete or a person who, by the way, physical tool of maturity doesn't mean that that person will become an athlete, but just that they like, for example, she mentioned her husband, that they're very, very active in the world, and that's how the energy flows most joyfully through them. So, and also then it means to become compassionate toward others. And not only those in our immediate vicinity, but theoretically compassionate to the world, and how do we help preserve this earth and for future generations, and even to expand our reality beyond the limits of this earth to, well, what else is out there? What other realities are possible? Other life. So that expansion, we start with the child who, precious as they are, the reality is just about right them and their needs. And then the toddler, and they start to learn a little bit about others, not as much as we might hope, because you put a 3-year-old in school with a lot of other 3-year-olds, and it's a learning curve, isn't it, to understand. They don't really understand the realities of others yet, but they can learn polite behavior, and then that helps them when they're polite and they get along with their friends. Then it helps that flow of relating with others and being able to actually understand the feelings of others to come in, and on and on and on, until in the intellectual years they're expanding intellectually in all sorts of directions. So that's the goal of Education for Life. And then today's topic is motivating people. And this isn't just about children, it's about anybody. And in Education for Life, we believe that everyone at bottom line is motivated. All of us are motivated. Everybody, even the worst criminal, are motivated by the same thing. And that thing is a desire for happiness. It's what we all want, and we have various ways of achieving it. Some people think, well, if I'm rich and I can buy anything I want, I'll be happy. And other of us think, well, if I have the ideal happy family unit, then I'll be happy. Or we think, if I serve others, now that's really getting, mature, isn't it? Expanding beyond making myself happy by getting what I want, but I'm happier when I'm serving others and seeing others become happy, when I'm seeing the children bloom and blossom, or when I'm helping by donating money to the foster care program or whatever. Or if you're a criminal, you think, if I get that, I'll be happy. whatever, that's what we all want, is to be happy. And what we find out is everything disappoints in the end. Nothing stays, even if you have the most ideal family unit and you have a perfect relationship with your husband and your children, what happens? The children grow up, don't they? It's all change, 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 change. And so we find out some laws of happiness. For example, when I'm selfish and take what I want for myself first, I don't end up being happy because at the child level, it's this simple. They don't like me. Nobody wants to play with me. And so, teaching the children based on their own experience, these lifelong character traits and qualities that bring happiness, not because you're going to go die and go to hell if you take something from someone else, but because ultimately it doesn't create a happy classroom when we can't trust each other. I just love it that one story that Nitai Duranja, the founder of the Living Wisdom Schools, tells that when he was teaching at one point, oh, I don't have it up here. I don't have our newest curriculum up here, Bharati. Maybe you printed out another copy. Sure. Today, if it's possible. I don't know if that's be possible, but we have a new curriculum in the areas, the curriculum area packet, a curriculum packet in the areas of personal development and cooperation. And it's called I Am Master of Myself, I am connected with all. I love that. I am master of myself is personal development. I'm connected with all is cooperation. And so it's just a lot of activities that the teachers here do that bring those awarenesses and the type of development into the classroom and with children. And in the introduction, I have the story that he tells about that someone complained that some treat was missing out of their lunch, and oh well, he's thinking privately, they probably ate it on the way to school and forgot, and then the next day something was missing out of somebody's lunch, and oh, do we have a problem here? And then a week later something else was missing, and then the kids are starting, you know how they are, a certain age, a certain stage of development. I think it's around 9 or 10. Teachers who worked with them correct me if I'm wrong, but around ages 9 or 10, that sense of justice and fairness is really strong, and somebody's taking our lunch. What are you going to do about it? Well, what can you do about it? You can have a lecture and make everybody feel bad and guilty and hope that you can guilt trip somebody into confessing. I know when I was a kid, that was what the teacher did when something was stolen. And I'll never forget that. I still remember this poor little girl who stole something, and when it was finally discovered, we all knew that she had done it, and we all knew how bad she was. Isn't that terrible? I mean, she makes one mistake, and she's branded for life with everybody else in the classroom because it wasn't treated as a mistake. It was treated as moral failure. So he thought about it and thought, well, okay, what am I going to do? He gets everybody on the alert to look, because hoping the person won't do it anymore if they're all looking. But this person was shifty, and it happened again. So he said, okay, I want everybody to bring extra food. We're going to take turns bringing extra food to share with everybody, extra treats. And he calls up the parents and lets them know he wants extra treats, and everybody gets on a schedule. And so the kids bring, each day, the child comes in with extra treats for everybody in the classroom. Well, whoever it was didn't feel the need to steal a treat because he knew he was going to get a treat. And it was just fun because everybody was sharing food suddenly. And you know what? The stealing dwindled out and it never came back. Imagine doing it like that by providing the opposite experience of sharing. Now, I'm not saying that will cure every case of stealing, but it did work this time. So one of the tenets of Education for Life is we learn through experience. Now, yes, we do need to be told right from wrong. We do need to hear that, but we don't really learn from being reasoned with and lectured about what we should and shouldn't do. The basic way all of us learn all the time is through experience. I mean, how many of you have learned something in the last year because you made a mistake and you learned from it? Anybody? Yeah. And so part of being an Education for Life teacher, and this is why it's Education for all of life, is being that sort of kind of a divine mother presence to your child, to let them make their mistakes and gently guide them to learn why that was a mistake and correct it, rather than lectures, guilt, being told why. As I was mentioning to Chris Wheeler yesterday, there are certain children you can reason with. You can tell them why they should not do something. But which tool of maturity do you think that is?
Intellect.
Yes. So the child who lives in that tool of maturity will listen and understand and change their behavior because they understood it. How many kids are that's their strongest tool of maturity? Maybe a quarter, I don't know if it's evenly divided, but 25% each or not. But reason is not the primary way we learn. Reason is what we use to justify what we've already decided and already done because of, unconscious desires, maybe conscious, semi-conscious choices, habit, what we've seen modeled around us, and then we use reason to justify it. We can justify anything through reason. We can justify suicide bombing through intellectual reasoning. So everybody's motivated by the desire to be happy, but then you think, well, how is that going to work practically? Because when I tell my child, if you help clean up because grandmother's coming to visit, then you'll be happy, they're not going to believe that. So how do we motivate them? And in school, of course, we're always trying to motivate them to learn, to do their math, to learn about insects, to improve their handwriting. But you at home are equally doing that. You're trying to teach them to brush their teeth and be polite to the neighbor and answer the phone politely and wash behind their ears. We're all trying to motivate all the time, right? Let's just talk about it for a second. What's worked for you to motivate your children? Who would?
I did something strange.
Thanks,
this
Angela.
morning to motivate Dimitri.
Okay.
He's been really not wanting to have our family separated when we need to run errands. He wants us all together, either in the car or at the house. We're not allowed to leave each other at all the last couple weeks. And this morning was very difficult for him, and so I was singing to him in the car. He's over with Dominic on the other side of town, and I'm sitting there singing to him, and it occurred to me he's still not calming down. He kept saying, sing another song, I'm not happy yet, sing another song, I'm not happy yet. And he's like, please don't leave the house, and then finally it occurred to me, like, I've got to motivate him somehow to be happy, to be out, and nothing's working. We've tried helping Dominic at the tea shop and say good morning to our customers and get a bubble tea if he's calm, or nothing was working until I finally said, my birthday's on Wednesday. Have you thought about making a card or maybe getting something that we could do together? This is the perfect time for you and Dad had to pick out something that we could do as a family. And it was the first time that he just went, okay, Mom, I love you. I'm going to pick out a really fun present that we're going to do together. Bye. And then hung up on me. I'd been on the phone for like 40 minutes trying to calm him down and nothing worked. And it finally just doing something as a family, like him choosing that was the motivation that he needed to calm down completely in the car and stop screaming. So
wow.
Yeah.
Now we'll come back to that in a little while and analyze.
I was going to say, what is the psychology behind that?
We'll analyze that in a minute. Yeah, we'll talk about that. How about some other not so idealistic, incredible things? Don't feel you have to come up to this level. If you've motivated your kid by saying, I'm going to lock you out of the house if you don't, it's okay, confess it. Yes.
When my oldest child was only 3 years old or so, we had a huge challenge with him brushing his teeth at night and doing the whole routine to get into bed. So I was at my wit's end because I was very used to doing things because they were the right thing to do, and he wasn't. He didn't think that's why he needed to do it, I guess. And so the preschool teacher I was working with at the time suggested, wow, what if you gave him a sticker chart and then you guys used a timer, so he could set a timer, and if he beat the clock and got his teeth brushed and his pajamas on and in bed before that timer goes off, boom, he got a sticker. It's like, oh, I'll give it a try, but I really didn't think that someone needed a sticker to do the right thing. And so, so it worked. It was amazing. And after 2 months, he had forgot, he'd forget a sticker one night and then another night, and pretty soon he didn't need the chart anymore. Wow. I was.
So she motivated with a sticker, a reward. But what tool of maturity was that child probably, if that motivated them? I'm going to beat the clock. What was the tool of maturity that they love to be in? Yeah, they love the will. They want to meet that challenge, win against the clock.
When I was younger too, I was like Trina, thinking you do it because it's the right thing to do. My first child definitely was that. However, the second wasn't. And so we were actually at a music concert that I really wanted to stay longer, and he was getting really wiggly. And Miss Tony, we could just said, hey, it's a really good music. We need to be
Don't
quiet.
whisper because
So we
the
need to be
camera.
quiet. So she was. However, there was nothing you could do. And so finally, I said, listen, if you just stay a little bit more quiet for a little bit longer, I'll buy you an ice cream. And he did. But I felt really bad because I felt like I'm buying my child to be quiet And then when I learned about Ego Active, it just made so much more sense because I felt like really my standards, I'm lowering my standards, just to get them to do something. And I'm not saying that's always the right thing, but at the time it helped, and I very, very sparingly used it. But he would do something if there was something in it for him.
All right. So we've got 3 examples here: a sticker, doing it for something in it for him with ice cream, and making a card for his mom. Yes, Elizabeth.
I got a very short story, and I want to see if this if this is part of your flow. I work with disabled adults, and yesterday I was sitting at the lunch table with a very small group, one of whom has a very hard time cooperating, extremely hard time. And he's also very, he likes to be a leader. And so I thought, well, how is this kid, what are we going to do to get him to cooperate with the people that he's sitting with? And it was really hard because he was in a downer. And so all of a sudden I thought, well, he's very speedy. He reacts speedily. So I said, let's all pretend we're in a rocket ship. What planet shall we go to? And this kid just went boing. And he said, well, I don't know. I said, well, how about Neptune? No. He said, I thought he's going to say something else. He said, no, I don't want to go to Neptune. I want to go to Jupiter. Okay, who's the captain? I'm the captain. And it was just really interesting that the others chimed in a little bit, and he was willing to then pick up his lunch bag, throw his placemat away. I mean, just real basic things that the 5-year-olds, But it was a lesson for me because he is consistently hard to work with, and but there's just that little sort of story trip we took.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if that's a feeling kind of thing.
Well, actually, we're moving on to the next topic, but of course they're like this. They interrelate. And so, for example, when Trina talked about the child who she motivated to beat the clock, and then he'd get a sticker if he beat the clock, and I said, well, that was a child who really loves the will, loves to be in the will, loves to win, loves to succeed against a challenge. So they are interrelated. And but I don't want to go there as much as I want to talk about, you talked about another principle, working with leaders, but you also gave him something that he wanted, which was, I get to be the captain, didn't she? So, so we have a sticker, beating the clock, a chance to beat the clock, because I bet after a few nights of stickers, he would just want to beat the clock. You didn't have to stick with a sticker. Ice cream, and be the captain. I only have one sheet of paper. I'm just checking to be sure this isn't bleeding into our wall. So, and then Angela talked about one where what motivated him was to help his mom. Okay, so, yes.
There's another thing I've done several times. My kids love candies. I mean, who don't? Who doesn't? And we do allow candies and chocolates at home. But invariably, the thing is, have your banana and then you may have a chocolate. And that has worked thus far most of the time.
What do you do when they ask for a second banana?
Yeah. Thankfully, it doesn't happen. I mean, they always have a bowl full of chocolates or candies in front, but they're good enough to take only one every time, and they check with me.
So when a child is motivated to help others, we call that light specific gravity. Because that's a high energy, very aware, mature attitude, isn't it? I mean, even though he's small, it was a mature attitude to be able to think, oh, I want to do something for my mom. So if you had the grandparents coming and you wanted to get the house cleaned and you said, just think how happy Grandma will be when she walks into her room and there are fresh flowers and everything is spick and span, and it's all vacuumed. Once you vacuum it so she'll feel really good in that room, and they go, yeah. Then they're in a light specific gravity because they're motivated to help others. But what if they say, I don't care, I don't know, I can't, I'm too much into my video game to think about. I do love Grandma, and when she gets here I'll remember that, but right now I want to play this video game. Then if you can motivate them with a reward, you get to take Grandma, you get to walk down the street with Grandma to show her that new bird's nest we saw. Maybe that would motivate the child. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe you have to have something a little more crass, like you get to take Grandma to the ice cream shop this afternoon. But they're motivated because they get something they want. And it doesn't have to be a physical thing. It doesn't have to be a material good. It can be being the captain. It can be beating the clock. It can be 10 minutes longer snuggle time while you read aloud tonight. I know that was one I used so much in the classroom was, if you guys can keep it together and finish these last two problems before we go to lunch, I'll read an extra 10 minutes aloud when we come back in. And they loved. They never wanted me to stop reading aloud. You know, my voice would give out way before their ears gave out. And many times, unless they were just absolutely physically, at their wits' end, they had to move, that was enough. That was enough to motivate them. More read or loud time. Now you have to know your child and know what will motivate this particular child. Is it more time with you? Is it, and you want to, of course, give a reward that you want them to have. You don't want to give them toffees that are going to coat their teeth, but a reward that you don't mind their having. And oftentimes, as Trina described, I would say most often, teachers, if you think of an example of this, I'd love you to chime in, but most often what happens is when you offer that reward, they like it, they get in the habit of it, and everything goes more harmoniously, and pretty soon you don't even have to offer the reward anymore. Helen's nodding like she has a story.
No, that's definitely true, because we used to have prize day for playing guitar. So they got a sticker, and then if they had that many stickers, we got prize day, which was a movie night or getting the Dairy Queen, the smallest ice cream they had. And but after a while, it just, you don't need it anymore. They just do it because you're using these things to point in the right direction.
Yes.
I think.
So rewards have gotten a really bad name because it's considered, what's the word? It's promoting children to be outer directed rather than inner directed, to do it to please someone, to do it to get something, rather than to do it because it's right, or because it will make them happy, or because they want to achieve, or they want to learn. But on the other hand, when you're coming up against something that, like brushing your teeth or learning your times tables, it really does have to happen, doesn't it? And if offering that reward will help them get over that hump, that block where they need to raise their energy a little bit to be willing, and just that little reward makes them raise their energy and be willing, and suddenly they have higher energy and they don't need the reward anymore. I've seen it time and time again with individual students and with whole classes. A child's having trouble succeeding in reading, and the reward just might be little tiny step, big reward. We get to play with the ball. As soon as you read these 5 words, we're going to bounce the ball and do rhyming words, and they love to bounce the ball and do rhyming words. And pretty soon, they're reading lots and lots of words, and they've forgotten all about they have to bounce the ball every time they read 5 words. Lily.
I don't know if this is off the top, but I wanted to know how you teach about the negative approach, like, you know, the timeout chair. When things become, and I have a 2.5-year-old grandson, as I mentioned yesterday, and they have a timeout chair, but they don't use it very much. I just wondered, is that part of the Living Wisdom School approach at all?
It depends on how it's used, like everything else. You know, if the timeout chair is used like, you bad child, you go sit in, and I know that's not the case in your family, but I'm just, you know, you go sit in there and you stay and you don't you dare get out of there. That would not be using this philosophy. But the timeout chair is, listen, I don't know what to do because this family we can't get dinner ready when you're doing this, and I've given you every opportunity I can. And so now you're going to sit in the timeout chair. And it's done calmly, matter-of-factly, and not punitively, and not...
Do you tell them how long? I mean, do you give them a...
Everything's individual. You know, that it would just depend on the age, the child, so many different things. But what you're talking about is the next one I wanted to talk about, which is, so what if the child won't help do anything when the grandparents are coming? And maybe you just let it go. Okay, well, you let it go this time. Then next time you ask them to do something, they know that I don't have to, because Mom, there are no limits. So maybe it's only one little thing, but you got if this was important to you and you've spent some time trying to motivate them and they know it's important to you, it's better not to let it go till they've even just gone out and gotten the mail, done something. Because you don't want, you know, you think, oh, it doesn't matter, it's not that important. But you know what, you lose a few battles, and then it's going to be hard to turn the direction of the war around. And it's not really a battle between you and the kids, but it's more like you're setting an energy pattern of expectations. We cooperate. I ask respectfully, and they don't have to do every single thing you ask, but you know what the things are that are important, right? You know, so sometimes the energy is so heavy that even getting what they want won't motivate them, because they've gotten into such a funk, you know, such a low place. And that's when you might have to use a consequence, because at this level, we're motivated to avoid pain. And I'm not talking about pain like a beating, but pain in that something happens you don't want, like I have to sit in the timeout chair, or if it's a teenager, my car keys get taken away for the week if I don't do this. And then that will most often motivate when we're in the heavy. So these are all states of consciousness, states of energy, and we move through all of them all the time. But we also have one that we generally kind of are in when all things are even and we're healthy and our parents haven't had a fight this morning and everything's going okay. There'll be one we kind of hang out in, but also we all go through them all the time. So it's important we know how to motivate even ourselves when we're at all the different levels. So I'm thinking, speaking of motivation, that you guys are a very motivated class. You've sat quietly and listened for a long, long time, and maybe we need to move and take a break. But first, Paul has a question.
Well, I mean, I just had something to add to the heavy. My youngest was kind of had this pattern going from her first grade year. She had spent the first day of every school year in the principal's office. And she had this adjustment period where she was taking about a week to kind of ease in, and but there were just ridiculous things that were happening. Things on the playground, things really compulsive. I can't even remember what it was, but since she's been in the elementary school here in Beaverton School District, there's this award that's given out every month. It's called the Golden Cougar Award. And the Golden Cougar Award is not for exemplary performance. It's just for baseline good behavior. Get your homework in on time, be to school on time, don't go to the focus room. And just those three things, and you get Golden Cougar every month, and it's an award. And I was, this happened again her third grade year, and I thought, I got to get this nipped in the bud. I mean, I've got to do something. And so we sat down and we had a conversation about it. And I asked her, I said, you know, what do you have to do to get Golden Cougar? Are you familiar with, you know, with what you have to do? And she told me. And I said, well, Cece, I said, these are usually things you don't get rewarded for in life. These are things that you have to do every day just to have an opportunity to be successful in whatever you're doing. And we got into it was very sane. I mean, I did threaten her, but I said, listen, I said, I love you so much that I am willing to have you hate my guts. And I said, if this does not correct itself immediately, I said, your time with me is going to be a living nightmare. And I left it at that. Well, now we're like 15 Golden Cougars down the road. And she has, by the way, I guess she believed me, you know, when I said that. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do or how I was going to make it happen. It was kind of a bluff. Really, it was kind of a bluff. But she did not believe she could do that, because I talked to her about Golden Cougar, and she just didn't see herself as one of the kids that was getting up on stage, getting her little Golden Cougar wristband. And I didn't offer a reward because I thought, you don't offer a reward for something you ought to be doing anyway. Golden Cougar is the reward.
Yeah.
So she's missed it sporadically for various things, but all in all, she's been hitting it every single month. So I mean,
well, that's an important point, that she didn't see herself as someone who could get that award.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about yesterday.
And now she lives for that award.
About you always need to see your child, anybody, your spouse, your employees, your co-workers, as being able to take that next step, whatever it is that's holding them back, that's limiting them. And you don't have to see a child who you know is in the principal's office becoming a child who wants to make everybody happy. You just need to see them as making their next step of basic good behavior. You know, you don't expect them to go overnight from here to here, but just that you're holding that possibility out there and giving them opportunities as often as you can to take that step is what we're talking about here. It's positive parenting. It's positive teaching. It's because they all can. That's why they were incarnated, is to expand and grow. But we can't expand and grow over 50. You know, we can't go from here to what am I wanting to say here? The corner of Murray and Allen. We can only go from here to the corner of 4th and Angel today, you know. So it's helping each person take their next step, or just holding it. Sometimes like a colleague, you can't maybe help them, but you can hold it in your mind and believe it and treat them like they're already there. And that will help them a lot more than looking at them like, here we go again. Just confirming again, that's who you are. And we all want to do it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you'll come in, somebody, teacher or me, will come in the office and shut it firmly and say, I'm so frustrated with blank. But they don't ever let so-and-so know they're that frustrated. You know, it's this calm expectation that you can grow, you can be bigger than you are. Let's take a 10-minute break, come back at 1:45, I'll ring the chime. I'm going to ask Barty to be heavy, and Helen to be light, and Rose to be ego active, okay?
These
Barty.
are not necessarily reflective of our natural state.
Barty, do you like school?
No. School's boring.
Helen, do you like school?
I love school. I wish I could go every day early and stay all day long.
You're ego active.
I thought she was light.
She's like,
I'm sorry. Rose! Do you like school?
sometimes.
When do you like it?
I like recess.
That could be a heavy response too. I like when I make an A. I like when I get to play with my friends. That'd be a big one, wouldn't it? Rose, show me your reaction when you can't get a piece of puzzle to fit. You're 3. You're 3 years old. Varity, you can't get a piece of puzzle to fit. Helen, you can't get a piece of puzzle to fit.
Huh, I wonder how it's going. Could I please some help? Could I have some help here? It doesn't fit.
Thank you. Barty, would you like to learn a new game? It's lots of fun, but it's hard. Rose, would you like to learn a new game? It's hard, but a lot of fun.
Can I pick my pieces?
Sure.
Good.
How about you, Helen? You want to learn a fun, hard, challenging game with me?
What? I get to play a game with you? Sure.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anybody come to Rose? What do you feel is trying to happen? You know what happened was in that other room, I was just going to show you pictures, but I ended up giving you a lot more of the class. So
Well, I think it would be helpful to know, maybe from your book, you just kind of summarize different ways at home when you hear, especially, I know at our house, the siblings we're talking about roughhousing, they're having fun, okay, it's starting to get a little escalated, but they're so magnetized to roughhousing that it's quite a challenge to shift the energy.
and how do you do that?
Sometimes music, sometimes starting a different activity that looks interesting to them and that distracts them enough. Asking one of them to help me with something, getting in the middle of it with them and using some kind of humor or something unexpected that kind of breaks them out of that flow that they're going into.
A real good concept to learn is change the energy. Just change it. You don't have to necessarily know, when it's like that and they're getting out of control and you know it's going to get worse, then you don't have to necessarily think, how can I take them to the next step or the highest level of expression, but just change it. Do something different. Bring out a different activity, or turn on music, or bring out the spray bottle with lavender scented spray and spray everybody. Or, just think.
It works with cats.
It does?